I'll pull over this burlap and just gently snug it up. I'm not pulling it real tight. I'll stitch these springs into the burlap in 3 different places. Direct the needle back towards the previous knot. Wrap the string 1 time. I'll pull this down tight. And when this finishes out, it comes into a nice neat knot. It's very fortunate that the original stuffing materials have been left from the past. I've been able to replicate all of the original stitch patterns and how this was laid out. I need to finish out the profile at 2.5 inches thick. I'll start padding the back by putting in a series of bridle ties. I'll start by working with the wood wool and building up this outside edge. I'll feather it away like cotton candy and work against my hand. I'm not too concerned about how evenly I get this outside edge at this point. I'm basically going to level this off and build this about 1 inch thick on the center. Keep the fiber moistened. Gently tuck it into the low areas and level everything off. I need to make sure that this low area in the crevice along the lumbar roll is nicely filled. I'll taper this along up towards the top surface. Once I've got this leveled off to the first loop, I'll pull this bridle tie and continue working my way diagonally towards the next tie. Again, I have to be very gentle touch here and even out these lower areas. I'll build the wood wool deeper as I come across the top rail and taper it off towards the center. With the wood wool in place, I'll mark center on a panel burlap, strictly following the yarns. I've stapled the burlap evenly across the bottom rail, pulled it tightly over the top, keeping the weave even across the rail. Use temporary staples because I'll need to adjust this. I'll brush this out evenly over the surface, keeping my center reference in line. I'll use a series of temporary staples along the sides here. Keeping everything straight. As I'm snugging down the burlap, I'm continuing to follow the weave in the material. It ensures keeping the center line straight. I'll measure up 18 inches from the seat to begin the layout for the first series of stitches. Again, it's very important to stay in line with the weave of the material. I'll use a double-pointed bayonet needle and run it completely through the outside back. As soon as I feel it go through that next layer of burlap, I'm going to shoot the needle right back up and tie it off. Tug on it and make sure I got the burlap and not interfering with the springs. With all the stitches in place, I'll go back and draw these in, snug it down, and pat the stuffing in. When I get to the end, I'm going to leave that knot loose to where I can readjust it. I'll be going through these ties again. All right, I'll just go around once loose here. I use the regulator and pull up any low spots and level out this surface along this edge. I'm not too concerned about the outside. I'll be adding more as I move along. tie that off and work with these fibers in the center and mash them in a little bit better. I'm going to readjust these and tighten this up a little bit. With the center stuffing all quilted into place, I need to remove these staples and finish out the sides. I've made reference marks at 4.5 inches. Turn this excess under. I'm stuffing in more wood wool along this edge and straightening it out. I'll measure back 9.5 inches from this top row of stitching, fold the burlap, staple it to the back, and then start rounding out the top. It's not that difficult to measure these out by eye, but I like to use this cardboard. It helps get things directed. The needle pretty much guides itself. Bring it up here for this blind stitch. Turn it back and direct it pretty much straight down. Give it a little twist there. Okay. Press this in and bring this edge out. Keep working with the regulator. I'll use the regulator again and pull the stuffing up and somewhat square up this edge. I'll come out from this mark here and 1.5 inches. Lay out a stitch line for the rolled edge. Well, that's a wrap so far. It's time to put on the horsehair.